preparing for jobs and careers that haven't even been thought up yet or created yet. So how do you prepare for that? Well, you have to be this and not this. If you were to come into my office, you would see these things in my office. You would see this plant that's on a table in my office. This plant is now, these leaves are probably about 15 inches high. When this plant was first brought into my office, the leaves were about 4 or 5 inches high. And week after week, this little plant has been watered, it's been fertilized, it's been exposed to sun to nourish it and to help it grow. And now it's, almost 1.5 feet tall, these leaves. And new leaves, you can see down here, you can see new leaves that are emerging, and they'll grow as well. And that's what you need to be as an employee: learning, growing, exposing yourself to things that will nourish you and strengthen you and enhance your talents and capabilities. This is a piece of petrified wood. It just sits on my desk and it does nothing. It provides no value. It just takes up space. But it's this object lesson of what can happen if we stop progressing. There's no more progress for this piece of petrified wood. It is what it is. It's a paperweight, or that's basically what it is. It's something to look at, but it adds no value whatsoever, other than to remind me that I should be this and not this. Now, Elder Bednar said, learning to love learning is central to the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is vital to our ongoing spiritual and personal development, and it's an absolute necessity in the world in which we do now and will yet live, serve, and work. And so if you've not yet come to learn, if you've not yet learned to love learning, my invitation, brothers and sisters, would be to start today. I spoke to a group of a couple of hundred people in the Carolinas at a devotional on Sunday in a Zoom meeting, and I asked the question, how many of you are planning to go to college? And of course I couldn't see all the hands, but I said, don't go to college. Now that might seem shocking for the president of a church school to say don't go to college. And what I meant by that was, don't just simply go to college. If you just go to college and go through the motions, you won't have a rich experience. Become a lover of learning as a college student, and then you'll have the rich experience. So learning to love learning is vital and central. If you learn to learn, if you love to learn, you'll be that vibrant plant and not that piece of petrified wood. Now, I want to share this statement from President Ezra Taft Benson as a reminder and as a measure of how we should live our lives as Latter-day Saints. Men and women who turn their lives over to God will discover that He can make a lot more out of their lives than they can. He will deepen their joys, expand their vision, quicken their minds, strengthen their muscles, lift their spirits, multiply their blessings, increase their opportunities, comfort their souls, raise up friends, and pour out peace. Whoever will lose his life in the service of God will find eternal life. This, brothers and sisters, I testify is true. When I was doing my Ph.D. during the time that I was at BYU-Idaho, I was teaching full-time or working in the academic office as the Associate Academic Vice President for Curriculum and teaching part-time. I was serving as a stake president and I was also working on my Ph.D. And what I found was when I put the Lord first, these things that President Benson promised were true. I never did a bit of homework on Sunday. That was my own personal principle that I followed. I didn't write a single page in my dissertation. I didn't read a single page in any of the textbooks that I had. I dedicated my Sundays to the Lord. And I think because I did this, He opened doors for me that enabled me to accelerate the completion of my studies and my dissertation in some pretty miraculous ways. So with that, I am going to stop sharing, and I would love to entertain questions. I've got perhaps a couple of other things that I can share, but I would love to, my preference would be to address any questions that you might have for the next 20 or 25 minutes that we're together this morning.
I have a question.
Okay.
So as you said that
Okay.
you have.
Would you just tell me your name and tell me where you're from and what you're studying too? That would be helpful.
My name is Ni, and I'm from Vietnam, and
Okay.
my major is cybersecurity.
Wonderful.
And because I listened to you and that you changed a couple of like fields of your career, and if you qualify for all of the thing that you said in the book, but then how do you identify that it's the path that the Lord wants you to go on?
That's a really great question. I would tell you that for me, this is just for me, and you may say, oh, I can't imagine taking this long. So I went to work for BYU-Idaho in 2002. And probably about 1992, 10 years before that, I began feeling a little unsettled about the direction of my career. I had a great career. I was working for Logitech. I was traveling all over the world doing international business with all the major computer companies in the world. But I had this feeling that it wasn't exactly what the Lord wanted me to do. And it wasn't until about 6 years later, when our daughter was a student at Ricks College then, 1998, she graduated. We were at her graduation, sitting in the Hart Auditorium on the now the BYU-Idaho campus. And I had this deeply and very powerful spiritual experience where the Lord let me know what He wanted me to do, which was to prepare to teach and finish my working life, I thought, at then Ricks College, and then a couple of years later at BYU-Idaho. At the time, I did not have a master's degree, and I knew that I would need one to even be considered. And so I started looking for MBA programs. I found the MBA program that I enrolled in with the Keller Graduate School of Management, and I worked at that for about 3.5 years. And there were times when I wanted to give up because it was hard, because I was traveling. I was a counselor in a stake presidency. I had a very demanding job. And there were times when I just thought, I just can't do this. And all the time I kept reverting back to what I had felt in that graduation, that commencement exercise, when our daughter graduated. And I want to, let me see if I can, well, it's somewhere in my studies, this week in the Come Follow Me lesson, there was a place where the Lord reminds, I think it was Oliver Cowdery, that he had taught him things that were true. And he basically said, if you know that these things are true, then do what you know is true, and don't worry about, you don't have to worry anymore about whether or not that's true once I've told you that it's true. So I knew this is what the Lord wanted me to do, and so I was committed to it. Now, for me, it took me a long time to get to those three circles and the intersection of those three circles to really say, this is exactly what I know the Lord wants me to do. Some early in their study say they know exactly what they want to do, and they get on a career path, and that's what they go do, and it works out wonderfully for them. It wasn't that way for me. It took me years to figure out just exactly what it was that I should be doing. But I think the Lord was nudging me in the direction that he wanted me to go. It's not like I felt like I wasn't doing what the Lord wanted me to do, but the Lord made it very clear that there was another path for me that he wanted me to pursue. And so I did. And, have never looked back. It's been now almost 19 years. It will be in August, it will be 19 years since I left California, came to Rexburg, Idaho, to be part of the church educational system. It has been the most glorious 19 years of my adult life in terms of my work. I had wonderful experiences raising our family in San Jose, California. That's where we raised our children. We had wonderful, amazing experiences there. My experiences raising our family in California, when I think about my experience, I think about the ward that we lived in and all of the wonderful friends that we made. In our life has been different since we came to work for the church, and our children were grown, and so our lives were different. But the things that we have learned, that we have experienced, are priceless. And when you go to work for the church, it's not about money. You don't go to work for the church to become wealthy, because that's just not part of it. But the Lord, it was more than a subtle nudge. It was a very distinct push. And I would tell you too that I had in my own mind a time frame. So I started my MBA in 1998, and I was thinking about 2005 was when I thought it would be the time for me to see if I could go to work for BYU-Idaho. Well, in 2001 in December, I came home from work one day and I was looking through the church news, the physical copy of the church news, and they used to publish job openings for all the church schools in the back of the paper. This is December of 2001, about 4 years sooner than what I thought I would be ready. And I saw that there was a faculty position at BYU-Idaho that was exactly aligned with my background. And I had the very same impression, strong impression then that I did sitting in the Hart Auditorium in 1998. But this is what the impression was: Bruce, this is your opportunity and your window of opportunity. And if you don't take advantage of this now, the opportunity will be gone forever and it will be someone else's blessing. So I took the paper into the kitchen where my wife was fixing dinner, and I said, so what do you think? And she said, well, one thing you know for sure is if you don't apply, they're not going to come knocking on your door, which was true. And so we decided that then was the time. And it absolutely was the time, because I can now look back in retrospect and I I can see that if I had not acted then, I would have never had the opportunity. There would not have been another opportunity in the future for me at BYU-Idaho. And so I'm just grateful that I responded to the promptings of the Spirit, which were very strong. For some, they may not be that strong. And that's a really long, that's a long answer to your question, maybe more of an answer than you were wanting. But that's really, that's kind of my story in terms of how I was directed to work, to be in a position to be doing the things that I'm doing today.
Thank you.
There's a question.
There was a question.
Marcella has a question also.
Okay. Can I answer this this one that's in the chat, Rob?
Yeah.
Let me take this one. So how do you think your time in Silicon Valley lent to my capacity at Ensign College? That's a great question. And I would say that there are, it's seldom that a day goes by, kind of like I reflect on my experiences as a missionary and a mission president on a very regular basis. I reflect back on the things that I learned during my time in Silicon Valley. And it informs my experience there, informs my work here today, because even though it's now been a long time since I worked in Silicon Valley, I'm still aware enough of what's going on in the world of work that I have a pretty good idea of the things that matter most in the workplace. Now, the work is different, companies are different, technology is different. But I think that to be the president of a school that is focused on preparing graduates to go into the world of work, that was great preparation for me. I had international experience, so I have an international perspective. It's one of the things I love about this place is that students come from all over the world, and so I think that was preparatory, and all of our experiences are additive, and they add to our preparation. Marcella.
Thank you.
Good morning, President Clark, and good morning, everyone. Well, my name is Marcela Toledo. I'm from Mexico, Oaxaca, Mexico. And my question is...
Mero ciudad de Oaxaca?
No,
Oaxaca?
del Istmo de Tehuantepec.
Okay.
Tehuantepec, cerca de Guerrero, Acapulco.
Okay, cerca de Pinotepa Nacional?
Sí, relativamente cerca.
Okay, porque Pinotepa Nacional fue parte de la misión. Okay.
Oh, qué bien, sí.
Okay.
Muy cerca. So my question is about, you were talking about that probably we're going to change 10 to 15 times of jobs. I have a bachelor degree, and 3 years ago I decided to go into LDS Business College, Ensign College now, and change my career. My question is, how do you explain to the employers when I am in an interview, how do I explain them that I decide to change, or like not change totally, but make some changes in my career? Because sometimes they ask like, why do you change from doing this to this? So how do you explain that to them?
Yeah. So what is your bachelor's degree in, Marcella?
International relations.
And what are you studying at Ensign College?
I'm doing paralegal.
Paralegal. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you hope to go to law school?
Yep.
Okay.
So first, I want to make sure that I like the legal system. I was into the diplomacy area. I was working for the Mexican government, and while I was there working in the Mexican consulate, I learned that if I know the American legal system, that's going to help me a lot to the Mexicans who live in the United States. There is like 15 million people living here in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's made me realize that if I know the legal system, that's going to help me. So I wanted to go to law school, but decided to go first to the program, the paralegal program, see like, is that something that...
I think that's very wise on your part. And I think that, a background in international relations and then a background in law, I think it will, so I think more important than figuring out how to explain the change is finding the right employer that will appreciate the change. Because the right employer, if you say, you know, I did international relations, I've now studied law because I want to do the following, you're going to be interviewing with employers that will want the background that you have. So, you know, with an international relations background and a background in the law, you're probably not going to go looking for a job at a resort in hospitality. You're going to, you know, if you go back to the Mexican consulate or you go into some governmental situation where you're using those skills that you have, your employer, the prospective employer, will appreciate the diversity, and they'll be looking at you for what you have done to prepare for that job, not perhaps what you studied before, but you can talk about how your background sort of led you to what you're doing. But I think it's more important to pick the right employer who will appreciate your background.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
This is Elder Goff. I just have a quick question. We have similar backgrounds in that I didn't get most of my education until I was in midlife. But could you speak, you mentioned maybe just briefly, could you speak about the difference between engaging current experiences as opposed to enduring current experiences?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, you can either endure life and challenges, or you can embrace them. And I think if we look at, you know, we just have to look at opportunities. There will be more opportunities that will come along than we have time to pursue. You know, I'm not going to do this. And anytime I've even hinted at this to my wife, she kind of rolls her eyes and says, yeah, don't even think about it. But if I were to go back to school one more time, I'd go back to school and get a law degree, because it's something I've always been interested in. So Marcella, you know, I kind of wanted to go to law school too. I'm not going to do that. But, you know, sometimes we have to endure until we can get to something that we can really embrace. Not every job we're going to have is going to be our dream job. I mean, I've had plenty of jobs that weren't my dream job. So you just have to keep at it. Just don't give up. You just have to keep at it and work hard. Work is part of what we're here to do. Okay. Was it Javi? Did you have a question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
If you have time, if not, we can.
No. Well, go ahead.
Thank you. So you mentioned that there was a time when you were stake president and was serving in a stake presidency and studying and also working. I relate a lot to this, and I just wanted to know how do you do it? Like what? Because the three things are important. You know, your family and everything is very important. But how do you know what you should take care of right now, like at this hour, at this day, and then prioritize those things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, there were times when I mean, you do have to prioritize, and there will be things that will be very urgent, and those will be the things that will deserve your attention. And sometimes it might be church, and sometimes it might be school, and sometimes it might be work. There's not an easy formula for figuring out how to do that. But that is where living close to the Spirit comes in, becomes very essential, because the Lord can help you figure those things out. And you just, this may not be a very satisfactory answer, but you just have to be wise and seek the Lord's guidance. and you'll know. I guess that's the best thing that I can say.